something that I say along the way will touch you. I know it. Let's begin that process of crafting a meaningful life.
Here's Mary Crafts.
Hey, good morning. And guess what you're listening to? Yep, you've tuned in again to Crafting a Meaningful Life. And the reason is because we're both on the path to doing that. In my podcast, the one thing that's most important to me is that I'm always real with you. I'm not make-believe. I'm not somebody who's trying to convince you that I have all the answers, but that I'm on the journey with you. And these are the things that I'm learning as I go. The things I've learned in the past that have brought me to this point. The things that I'm learning now, real time with you, they're going to take me into the future. And I've been working through this list on topics that you'd like to cover because I put that out to my social media. And I got such a huge response that now it's taking me almost all summer to work through this list. But one of you requested that I give some thoughts on how to use intuition and how to find and have time for meditation in your crazy, busy life. I know, for example, when I think about doing yoga, I can go to the gym, I can bang out my workout in an hour, be home, done, ready to go for the day, an hour and a half. And it's a doable thing for me. I haven't managed in my head, but when I have to think about doing yoga, even especially hot yoga that I've been invited to so many times, that for me just has this kind of overwhelmed feeling. And how do I make time in my life to go and sweat like that? Because clearly you have to shower and refresh when you get home. And I just don't know how to, I'm a little bit of overwhelmed with that in a busy life. Sometimes that's how meditation is, that you get a little bit overwhelmed at adding something new to your life. I don't have time for my life now. I'm treading water as fast as I can. You want me to add something new? So I'm going to give you some tips on beginning to add meditation to your life into a busy life. It's kind of how when I first started exercising. I would go at 11 o'clock at night, every night, because then I didn't have to worry about taking away time from my children, my family, any of those things, my business, my work was all done. I was just taking away time from my sleep, which I also mistakenly thought was not hurting me. So now I make sure I do get, anywhere between 6 and 8. I really don't need more than 8. And I do really well on 6 or 7. That's because I think I spent years on 4, which was not good for my body. But it's okay because I worked through that. And now I'm taking much more self-care, which is another thing we're going to add on to this podcast. So we better get started. Okay. So let's talk about intuition first, what it is and what it isn't. Intuition is not that kind of thing that you have really meditated on. And it is not that thing that you've had to really think and write for a long time. Intuition is just that. It's intuitive to you. It's what seems right to you, that natural knowing. I believe we've been given that gift of natural knowing if we know how to tune into it. But what it is a gift. And I really encourage people to use it as a gift. I have one of my sons who's a very logical person. And for him just to use his intuition is really anti-intuitive for him. He likes to research it out. Him and Google are such good friends. He and Google are like soulmates. Even when I'm talking to him, he's like Google checking me all the time. And if he can find it, then I must be right. And if he can't find it, then I must be wrong. But intuition is truly something that you can use in your daily life just as you're walking through of it. And there are 2 kinds of intuition. There's first the heart intuition, and the second one is the gut intuition. You know, when people say, I just have a gut feeling about this, what does that usually mean? It usually means, whoa, it's a bad idea. And that's because your gut intuition typically comes from your gut, where your fears are stored, and it's trying to warn you of a fear. But the thing about your subconscious or your ego part of your brain is it can't discern fiction from truth. And so it is constantly warning you about stuff that you don't have to be warned about, that's not fearful. In fact, if you only listen to your gut intuition, you might not ever do anything. You might not ever leave the house. Well, I have a gut feeling about this. If I leave the house, I'm going to get hit by a semi truck today. And don't let gut intuition rule your life. It's fear-based and it's rarely trustworthy. However, when that is tempered with your heart intuition, this is from the thinking part of your brain, that cerebral cortex. And when you were little, it wasn't developed. It wasn't fully formed. You relied on this fight or flight response back here. You relied on the part that kept your lungs breathing and your heart beating and everything working in your body. And that part of the brain doesn't know truth from fiction. This part of the brain does. And if you never finish developing your frontal lobe, then you're constantly relying on this, and your gut is constantly telling you, no, wait, be afraid, don't do that. Okay. But if you can rely on your heart intuition, which is where your heart and your mind come together, use your thinking brain and your heart emotion. That is what I call self-knowing. That natural knowing place that's so beautiful. And you can follow that intuition, and I guarantee you it is always right. And sometimes we listen to fear, but make sure you temper it with that heart intuition so that it's not just fear-based, but tempered with the thinking frontal lobe. If I only listen to my gut intuition, Mary, you really can't make it up to the top of Kilimanjaro. You really should never try. I mean, you're too old. You're not fit enough. You're not this. I would never have that happen in my life. But my heart intuition said, don't listen to that. You can do this. And when you're on that mountain, this is what I want you to listen to. And this is how I want you to place your steps. This is what I want you to do when you intuitively know the best thing for you. So how do you know which is which? Because things pop up quick for you. The gut intuition is usually the first to respond. That fight or flight response. Whoa, I don't have a good feeling about this. I don't have a good feeling about that person. So when that pops up, bring your heart intuition in. Ask. Because the heart intuition is based in love. So if your gut intuition says, I'm scared of that guy. He looks scary. He looks like someone I saw on the mugshot in the post office. Ask your heart in love. Do I really need to be afraid of that guy? Or does he simply remind me of something that I'm afraid of in my heart? Something that I'm afraid about in me? And when you ask, am I afraid of this in love? You can know and you can temper that. Now, sometimes you need a quick answer, okay? And you just don't have time to go home and meditate about this intuition thing. You need a quick answer, and that's what gut intuitions are for, and heart intuitions are for. So I take just a moment if I'm really wanting to know about this intuition. I deep breathe. Sometimes I have time for 3 deep breaths, and I'll tell you that that's enough to calm that gut down and to allow myself to listen here. But if I don't have time for 3, that's okay. I just choose 1. Exhale all the fear and let your natural knowing, asked in love, of what is my intuition, my higher self telling me about this immediate situation. Because remember, this is not about asking. as much as it is about receiving and allowing yourself to receive from your heart, your brain, your frontal lobe, and your higher guides that are there guiding you. That's part of what intuition is the pushes that they give us. What I do for a quick meditation, I sometimes have had people say to me, how long do you meditate, Mary? I have no idea, to be honest with you. When I go into a deep meditation, I don't have a timer on. I'm not keeping track. And I make sure that I have time in my life to be that deep into meditation. And it's in that kind of meditation that I've received some of the most profound missions and visions in my life. But when I don't have time for that on a daily basis, I love and enjoy the quick meditation. And I use an app that I have downloaded on my phone. It's a free app, okay? And you can use this. And it's called Insight Timer. Insight, like INSIGHT, timer, like a timer. And when I click on that, I've loaded my profile in here. It opens up and it gives me so many options. There's usually a statement in here, my thought for the day, that I read and go, I like that. And then I can choose what I want. Do I want a quick meditation or a long meditation? Do I want to go back to something I've recently viewed? And these are ones that are made just for me now because I've used this timer long enough that it knows what I like. And so, for example, here's one that's talking to me. It's a guided meditation. It's 14 minutes long. Love, tea in the garden of unconditional love. Now, if I have 15 minutes, I'm going to tune into that. But maybe I don't have that long. Maybe I only have 8 minutes. And here's just music to allow me to get deep into myself and receive from the universe what I'm to be about today. Maybe I don't even have 8 minutes. So what do you have? Well, I'm looking on down here. Here's one for only 5 minutes. I probably wouldn't recommend going into meditation without 5 minutes because it takes that long to really relax and to shut down your thinking brain and just allow you to receive. But this one is only 5 minutes long. It's a guided meditation, which means someone's talking to me and allowing me to relax my mind and ponder possibilities. You can also find 5-minute meditations that are just music. I love the guided ones, especially when you're just starting, because they can really allow you to understand what you're looking for in meditation. And then sometimes I love just the music. And I might find one that's an hour long or 22 minutes long. And you'll find the different kinds of music. Some people relax to just music that has the sounds of nature, of a babbling brook, or of a thunderstorm with rain. Some you hear the sounds of nature like I often do when I'm out hiking with the birds singing and, crickets chirping and those kinds of things. Others have music and you find different music that's relaxing to you. Some is from the ancient Oriental musics. Others are just soothing, calming sounds. And that's the one I use. You might have your own. You might find ones that work better for you, but explore. Begin to look around. Take some time to find an app that works for you and use it. And if you don't have time every day, oh my gosh, don't beat yourself up. Just say, well, when do I have time? And is that once a week? Great. Once a week, you should be coming into that space where you are receiving things that are for you from your higher self, from your guides. One of the things I also do is I use my sound bowl every single morning. And it starts me in this great centered place. It takes me anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute to do it. And that's it. Sometimes that's all there is for me in the day, but it sets my path going. I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to try and get out of my chair and get over here and play just this beautiful big bowl. There are lots of different shapes and sizes. Most of them are shaped like this, but lots of different sizes. And this one rings and resonates in my solar plex and allows me to feel really grounded throughout the day. And then I end that short meditation with a ringing of a bell to set it inside of me of what my intention is for the day and who I am and what I'm about. And I say my mantra. So I'm going to really jump over here and try and do this. We've never done this before. I have to take off my headphones and my mic is still on. So hopefully you can hear this. So here we go. So this is my solar plex bowl. It's not important that you see me, but focusing in on this bowl. And I tap it once to get it resonating, and then clockwise to get the bowl singing and the vibrations to come into my solar plex and ground me. I live with integrity and a high respect for myself and others. I am in alignment with the abundant flow of the universe. I stand courageous and full of personal power. I am empowered and I empower others. That personal ritual done every single morning sets my tone. As you could see, it took about 60 seconds. I owe myself 60 seconds to be able to do that, to be able to set what I'm about and to set my intentions for the entire day. What would happen in your life if you were to take those 60 seconds, get your soul vibrating, and tell yourself who you are and what you're going to be about for the day? It brings alignment for me, an alignment with what I think and my actions. So as I go through the day, if I have a point where I feel like my actions and my mantra this morning are out of play, then I can quickly come back into sync and make sure that I'm aligned, my actions with who I am. And when you find other people that you can be in alignment with, when you encounter them, they just come into alignment with you and you with them. And if they are not, and they're coming at you like this, knocking you off your alignment, just walk away. Remove those people from your space because they're knocking you off of alignment and who you really are. This issue of alignment is really critical for me in my life. And I believe that it's also critical for you. Have you thought about times in your life when you've said one thing and then did another? It's that common catchphrase that people use now. He may talk the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk. And there are times in my life where I have talked the talk, but I didn't walk the walk. And I was not in alignment with who I truly am, my authentic self. Oh, sure, I was in alignment with things that were given to me and things that others people thought I should be, but not my authentic self. That piece of me, that soul piece of me that has always lived, has always been about integrity and truth. When I'm in alignment with that person and my actions match that, I'm not only happy, I'm joyful. And that's how I live life. And most of you who know me know that that's how I live life. Every day, I can't wait to experience the joy that's coming into my life. And you might say, oh, well, yeah, you're older now, you're retired, you don't have to work, you don't have children at home. Honey, it's a lot tougher to be in alignment. I get it. I do. It doesn't mean that it isn't always a goal for us. And when you get knocked off by your kids or your job or your neighbors or your religion or whatever it is that's creating alignment for you, or then when you get knocked off of what you know is your alignment, then you need just some time and some space. You need to step away for a moment. You can't walk away from your kids forever and just say, all right, we're done. Just so you know, you're not in alignment with me. That's not how we live life. Instead, what we do is we take time for self-care, self-love. And self-love is the ultimate goal because you truly cannot love another until you love yourself. You only have the ability to love and show love in reflection of what you have for yourself. And that self-care that leads to that self-love is so critical, especially when you have the opportunity or the misfortune to be knocked out of alignment so many times in your day and to bring yourself back in. So there are 5 areas, what Kate Strong calls 5 pillars of self-care. There's the spiritual, there's emotional, there's mental, there's physical, and there's social. So let's start with the physical self-care. The physical is one of the easiest ones to do. And for me, it's a matter of being mindful, for being aware of what I'm putting into my body, to what kind of movement I'm doing. I'm mindful of keeping all things around me in a high vibration. That includes the music that I listen to. That includes the tones that are set in my home. That includes this sound bowl because it resonates inside of me physically. Physical self-care is not just a pedicure. It's not just, a bubble bath. It's not just going for a massage. It's so much more. Encasing this beautiful physical body with love. That's physical self-care. But it doesn't work by itself. If you truly want to be physically cared for, you can't just think about the physical. I talk about this on my podcast, or my tidbit that I did with Kate Strong. She did one for the International Self-Care Day. There's actually an International Self-Care Day, and she's published it on YouTube under My Strong World. But what I said in there was you can't just focus on one area of self-care. You have to focus on all of them. And when they're all in alignment, think how powerful and strong you are. If you just have one, if you're only focused on your physical, there's no way it can be in strong alignment. I watch videos, in fact, I watch them much less, on Instagram that are all about the physical. They're about being fit. And I'm all for that. But if you don't also think on how also to care for your emotional and your mental well-being, you can't stick physically and have it stick forever. That's why we have yo-yo dieters. That's why we have start one exercise and then quit, and start another one and then quit, because they haven't dealt with all of the areas of self-care at once. So let's talk about the emotional care. For me, I learned a lot about taking care of myself emotionally by writing. And I'm not a big journal writer, but I make notes in a journal that just are single words or phrases that remind me about my emotional well-being, that allow me to write down areas that I struggled in at a day. Like some more times I'll write down the word vulnerable, which is a key word for me in emotional self-care. And the more I feel like hiding my emotions, that's a big key for me. When I feel like hiding is when I know I need to be the most vulnerable, because healing doesn't happen when you're hiding. Healing only happens when you're out there with emotional nakedness. And I speak my truths. I speak them to myself and I speak them to others. It allows for my emotional healing and my emotional self-care. With my mental self-care, oftentimes I read because I love to hear the thoughts of others, how they're mentally putting things together. But most of all, with my mental self-care, I listen. I listen. And I allow things to speak to my mind, whether it's the sounds of nature, whether it's other people speaking. I like to listen, and I learn so much. So oftentimes people say to me, Mary, that's one of the things I love about being with you. It's like you focus in on me and you really listen. You're not looking past me at who you're going to talk to next in the room. You see me, and I listen to them. And listening to them allows me to take care of myself mentally. Even so, I might have to think, this person is not in alignment with me. I hear them. I have empathy for them, but they're not in alignment with me. Now, do I want to spend time with this person to see if we can come into alignment? Or is this a person I need to walk away from? That allows me to be mentally strong. My social self-care. I like to surround myself with high vibration people. I love to have people around me who are seeking and finding the joy of life. How many times do you want to hang out with people who are like, how's your day been? Meh. I'm so sick of hearing meh. When I say meh, I really mean meh. And that means check in on me because I'm only so-so. Okay. But people who are just Debbie Downers and are all the time negative, I don't want those in my social sphere. I want to just find high vibration people. I'm on social media as well. I will either block or not follow or discontinue people who are constantly bringing me down. And that's not because necessarily they're talking negative things or not because their life is experiencing trouble. It's because every time they only want to be about me, or every time they just want to have you watch them dance. Like, really? You just think people want to watch you dance? Every single one of your videos is about you? But, I mean, I don't want to watch all that. I don't. So I really carefully use social media. I take time for those relationships that are the most beneficial, that are the most high vibration for me. You heard that bull sing? That's high vibration. Even though it's in a solar plex sound, the vibration is loud and clear and high vibration. When I'm with people that bring me closer to my alignment, that's where I want to hang out. I align with people and I find people in my social self-care that I can serve, that I can give gifts to. That's one of the best ways for me to care for myself is to care for others. I find my champions, those people who encourage me and cheerlead me when things are high, and people who also champion me when things are low. Mary, I see where you're at. I get you. But you know what? I know who you are. And you are a champion yourself. You are a warrior. You've got grit. You've got grace. You've got purpose. I champion all of who you are. I surround myself with people who champion me, and I champion them. Self-care in all of these 5 areas is so critical as you move into alignment. And they will help you as you meditate, and they will bring your intuition into alignment as well. I like to think that right now there's a self-care revolution going on our planet. That's why there's such a thing as the International Day of Self-Care. It's a revolution. As much as there is a revolution about putting low vibrations into your body, about being disalignment, about separating us, there's also a revolution going on in self-care, in alignment. And you should spend time and find the resources out there that are about this self-care revolution. If we spent more time on self-care and developed self-love, how much time would we need to spend on gun control and worried about people coming into our schools and shooting our children? What if we had reached that person with self-care before that happened? We wouldn't have to worry about the drug wars. We wouldn't have to worry about people turning to drugs if they learned to care for themselves and self-care. Think how many ills that we spend so much money on in this world to correct, when the answer lies in spending those same resources on self-care for yourself and for others. Do you get a vision of how easy it would be to step into oneness if we all stepped into self-care, aligned ourselves, and brought that kind of self-care to others? Wow. How to get what you've always wanted in life? Care for yourself. How to have the most loving relationships? Care for yourself. Care for you. Love you. You know, I heard one time that loving ourselves is when you know you love yourself without the validation of others. Could you do that if you were never validated? Would you still love yourself? That would be tough, but I think it's possible. And of course, the validation of others just enhances our own personal self-love, but it doesn't make our self-love. I heard one time that there are 70,000 thoughts that go through our brain a day. 70,000 thoughts. I think 70,000 things in a day. 90% of them are things that I've thought before. 90% are things I've thought before. That leaves me open to set 10% new information, new knowledge, and listening to new ways to self-care and self-love. 80% of what goes on in our brain is negative. Now, these are on the average. The average person has 80% of those 70,000 thoughts are negative. Whoa. I don't want to live that life. I don't. I want to change that equation. I'm trying to change my life to be 75% positive, loving, joyful thoughts that are running through my mind 70,000 times a day. And okay, I'm not, so naive to believe that I'm not going to have negative thoughts. But what if I only limited those negative thoughts to 25%? What if I only had 25% of my thoughts be negative? Can you imagine what I could do, who I would be? Can you imagine how joyful you would be? How genuinely happy you would be? That's what I want us to do. I want us to change the equation. And the best way to do that is what we've talked about right today. Use your intuition. Meditate. Take care of yourself. And those things will change your self-love, the amount of negative thoughts that you put into your life and the lives of others, more drastically than anything else that you can do. The power of a drop of water. You ever get a drop of water on you and you just brush it off or brush it away? It's just a drop of water. Don't worry about that. I know it's on my shirt, but it's going to dry. It's going to go away. It's just a drop of water. What if you add that drop of water 70,000 times a day? It drops on you. And then it becomes a flood. And then it becomes a glacier that is cutting its way through your life. You've got to start with the drop. You've got to start with the drop in finding joy and self-love. to self-care. Find your own way to meditate in this busy life. Use your intuition when something is right for you, to follow it. Not to scare you away, but to follow it, to embrace it. Keep listening. Keep manifesting. The power of repetition is what brings change. What if you took that same drop of water and you dropped it on you like rain, filling you with joy 70,000 times a day? And if you did it 75% of that time a day, how much joy would flood your life? It's part of how I craft my meaningful life. It's part of why I bring this to you every week, so that you can begin to craft your meaningful life and be filled with joy. It's not about seeking pleasure. It's finding true joy. Namaste.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts.